So good evening, namaste to everyone here and out there. So today we're going to talk about something very interesting, and I'm going to teach you something that your mummies and your daddies and possibly your teachers didn't teach you. So it is the art to thinking, to think actually. How many of you learned that you should only be thinking when you need to think? Did somebody teach you that? Did somebody ever mention that? Never, right? So we actually learned thinking. We learned the habit of thinking through our parents, caregivers, are very, very early it's done. So it's not even teachers or anybody else. It's actually really the parents or the caregivers. And how they are thinking is how what we think. A lot of times what we think also is very much dependent on what they were thinking. So if they were talking about financial problems, if they had stresses, if they had conflict, then we as a baby in the womb, as a soul in the womb, we start to actually already inherit that type of thinking. And we have poverty consciousness before we've even come out of the womb. The programming happens in the womb, not just when you get out. And for 2 years after that, the programming is pretty much complete. At 7 years, you really develop it. You own it, it becomes yours. You recognize that this is how you are. So that womb space is especially important. So this is an important message for parents and parents-to-be, that how you think is how the baby will act, how the child, the adult later will act. So your future of your children depends on exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it. So what we are thinking is important, but more important than that is how you are thinking. So a lot of our thinking is done on autopilot. You know, like driving a car, you're not thinking of driving the car, are you? You're just driving it. Then all of a sudden somebody comes in front of you and you call them a few names and yeah, you remember you were driving and you become aware of the road and the traffic. You're not even aware of the traffic a lot of times because it's just autopilot. A lot of cooking is done like that. A lot of conversations are done like that. A lot of relationships are built on autopilot trends. So people actually never go deeper than just the surface little bit. They never get to really know each other. They never get to really experience each other. They may experience each other's anger a bit or emotions a bit because emotions are pretty loud. You can't just bypass them, abort them. So you get to see them. But who is that person who you live with? Who is your child as a soul? Who is your parent? We never get to know. We just define them by their personality of whether we like them or not. So one may call this, we develop a very tunnel vision of life. A lot of our learning has come, and this is what we use for thinking. When you start to think of something, you slap on all the learning that you have in your memory, everything you've learned. So imagine your body and your aura like an egg, almost like 4 foot, 5 foot, 7 foot, big egg. In this aura is stored a lot of your memories, a lot of your, all the information of experiences that you have perceived. So it's not just, it's outside, but this auric field of yours contains everything you're using daily on a daily basis to communicate. So it's not just how you're part of your nature, part of your behavior patterns. It's all locked in this auric field. A lot of this is you've learned from different trends. Parents, again, this could be teachers. It could be books you've read. It's YouTube information that you've gotten. A lot of us, if you notice, repeat information. So there's definite purpose to information. But what do? There's something such as autopilot. There's something such as mimicking the information. In mimicking the information, it does nothing for you. It just burdens your thought processes, and it actually stresses. So your mind is very occupied with this information. Your mental energy is occupied by this information. You're holding it in you, waiting to slap it whenever. We never have real, like I said, conversations. So there's something such as, and from this information, you also have some belief systems there. So the belief systems come out, I like this and I don't like it, and this is moral and that is moral. So there's a very interesting story by Einstein, and I find that quite interesting because of the depth, how profound it is. So he gives his students a lecture and then a test. And the test he gives, next year round, he gives the same students the same test. So his assistant says that, why did you gave these students the same test last year and you're giving them the same questions this year? So he said, I want to know how much they've developed, because truly if they've developed, their answers will be different to the same question. So questions in our life, whether it is who am I, what I should do, or what and when and everything, those questions never change, but your answer changes. And answer changes according to how you've developed yourself, how you've taken information and you've sorted it out, you've thought about it, you've almost measured it, tried it, experimented it, explored it, then developed it from your own experience, so it becomes original. So there's something thinking originally, and there is something such as just that tunnel vision where thinking on autopilot, which almost everybody thinks the same way. So entire lives and life after life for humans is just mimicking each other. Reading the sacred texts, quoting the Bible, quoting the Gita, well, what does that do for you? Don't tell me what you read, because I can access the same darn information. It doesn't do a thing. Did you take one sentence? Did you measure it? Did you examine it? Did you see if it's relevant in your life and how relevant it has become? Did you pull out from your mind all the experiences that will tell you whether this is true for you or not? Did you bring in all aspects of your mind to examine that, right? So this is how original thinking is developed. But very interestingly, 97% of the population is on autopilot thinking. So when you're not an original thinker, you have a tendency to keep thinking, because that memory is in the auric field. You'll keep using it, the memory keeps coming back. Before, sooner or later, you become a compulsive thinker. You're addicted to the same type of thinking. You think the same way. So the way doesn't change. Now, it doesn't matter what you're thinking. How good is that? Because you're thinking about it the same way. So how do you ever solve your problems if you look at all problems in the same way you were looking at them before? It doesn't. That's why it doesn't work. So most of us are trapped in this type of mechanical thinking. It's not original, it's mechanical. So why is original thinking important? Why do you think it's important? Why knowing this is important? How many people think on autopilot from here? Just let's be honest. Okay? Yeah. So if you're quoting a lot of stuff, if you're in a lecture, it's a different thing. If in an ordinary conversation, you're quoting this, you're not giving your insight. You're just quoting so-and-so, you're probably on autopilot. Yeah.
Aren't you saying something because you resonate with it?
Yes.
It's like at this point in time, in this information age, how much is original?
Yes. So you can get information, but so if you're resonating with it, all the more reason that you want to truly examine also the opposite side of that, what is to the left, so you actually have more insight. So usually for original thinkers, they will actually they don't, by the way, believe what they think first. Because the first thinking is mechanical and it's coming from autopilot, what you've learned so far. So we are developing every moment with experience. So what I may have thought like 5 days ago, now I may perceive it differently because I have how many hours of experience now that can change the way I think. So it's going back to Einstein's that the answer should be different to that solution after what day even, never mind a year, right? So we can think it out again. So coming back to your Rachna, your question that we do need to examine something we resonate with, and then something we resonate with, if you truly want to develop it into original thinking, you will think of what's opposite to that. So if you think this is true, then think of what is opposite to that and think of that too. So when you actually take the opposites of that, and you can look at it sideways and opposites, what behind, what's front, you can actually get into a good original pattern of thinking. It's a way of thinking. Now, what happens is it's not like every thought of yours you have to be original. That just happens because once you develop, so if you have if you have something you want to figure out, you want to answer to something. It could be health, wealth, it doesn't matter what. It could be everyday situation. You have a situation, you want to think. So take time now to think about it. Sit down with that. And now examine it properly and give it time and be very patient. Because all of your mind is involved. You're actually you're thinking backwards, forward, this way, that way. Then you leave it for a while and you let more insight come. You let other aspects of your mind bring in different experiences and add on to that. So it's developed. And then that you can actually use for your solutions. Otherwise, how we usually, our thinking time is 20 to 30 seconds. We think of something, we absolutely make that first decision, and then off we go. So if you develop, I'm not saying it's going to be 24/7, it shouldn't be, because it shouldn't become a burden. But your core situations, you take one situation, you sit with it, you examine it from that person's side, your side, everything else, bring it together, then leave it for a while, because now all the experiences that will come will probably be relevant. It's answering you, it's adding to your inner knowing. So once you develop that, then you can actually make that call or make that decision. So this situation, if you do it 3-4 times consciously in a week, that's all, 3-4 times, at least you'll have that many situations. You'll probably have more. We do our thinking mostly when we are multitasking. While we are doing 3 other things, we are thinking of something so important to our life. So we could be cooking, we could be talking, we could be cleaning, So multitasking creates actually a very poor quality of thought. Really poor quality of thought. So you have to know that multitasking, you cannot, if you are going to be original, serious thinker, you're going to you have to give yourself that patience, that time, and to think about. But now it's a habit. If you do it with 2-3 things, it just becomes natural for you. And then you'll want to do it, because now this is your insight. When you talk, it's so relevant because it has come from your experience, not just what you perceived in that first moment. So there's something such as beliefs that are personally what you have experienced, what you think you experienced. And there's something such as a field of all entire experiences, which actually has part of it is your belief, but part of it is also contains what you don't believe. The field has everything. So what I'm asking is that you get into the field and you start to solve a problem there. And it could be a little problem and it could be a big problem. Now, of course, 1 month later, you can actually revisit that same situation and you can actually solve it in a different way. because you will have enough experience. This keeps you fresh. This keeps you fully present, because never in your life you are mimicking everything. Never in your life you are somebody else. You are forced to be yourself. Why I want to talk about this information and this wisdom, because my interest is that all of you should be self-realized. Your end goal should be self-actualization, self-realization, enlightened mind, enlightened living. Now, it's very interesting. What happens is that when we have the end goal, and that actually for some becomes the first goal in their life, and for some it comes later, whatever it is. The path may be long, but the end goal is still that. So what happens is that when you start to, in the spiritual course, in the spiritual path, if self-realization is the goal, which means expressing your fullest potential all the time, without a delay, without mimic, without autopilot, without being fully alert and conscious all the time, making those good, juicy decisions from your soul all the time. So when this happens, you can use one methodology. So what I'm saying is you can use this art of thinking, you can develop this into a science of your own being. So you will learn a way, but the way will become the pathway to your enlightened mind. This one way in spirituality, we never need to do 10 things. It's not that you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to read this, you have to read that. That's a different path. The spirituality means the shortest path. You want to get to the soul, you want to get into the soul content, you want to get into the inner knowing, the inner wisdom of thousands of years. You've probably experienced the cosmos through lives, not through lives, astral planes, physical planes, whichever dimensions. You want to access that wisdom, and you want to put it on the table when you speak at all times, right? Now that becomes very possible with this type of practice too. So there is, of course, the practice of silence. That is the meditation. You need plug-in time. And as I've always said, try not to do long meditations. Make it deep and make it short, because that's how it'll work. These are not the times your brain is not wired anymore to sit for 2 hours. You will not be able to sit, because we have this habit of thinking. We are now used to multitasking. We actually hold 2-3 things. And emotions are somewhere, thoughts are somewhere, flying out, and trying to be present doesn't work. 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes of plug-in time is plenty for you to connect to who you are. But that is the silent way, the way of the silence. But that in itself is not enough, because you do need understanding. There's a reason why you have a mind, and there's a reason why you have a life. If you were just to be silent, you shouldn't have taken this birth. There's plenty of planes out there that you could be in, and you don't have to experience this humbug of life and the activities of life, right? So the fact we are alive, that means we need to understand on the physical planet. That means we need to have great strategies for ourselves. So we need these lessons. It's like driving to your own end, driving to your own goals. But you need strategies, right? You need techniques, you need methodologies. But a lot of us have learned mechanically from others, right? And have you seen how easily we use our morality? When we are judging somebody, if we don't like a person, who do you judge? Who do you judge? Only the people you don't like. If I'm your friend, you'll never judge me. It doesn't matter what I do. I could be doing any wrong. You will not find a thing wrong with me. But if you don't like me, you will criticize everything, right? So all that, so you see how our world is divided? Just because I like so-and-so, we're just wasting time. Just wasting time.
I was just thinking that, to me, that sounds very much, if we would learn to think that way, then there would be no more conflict, right? That's the
Absolutely.
problem, that everybody thinks so mechanically one way or the
Yes.
other, and then everything that everybody else says is
Yes.
bad, and you know.
Because we think mechanically, we actually, everybody is thinking alike, but they have a slight, and they want to be right. Everybody wants to be right.
Yeah, because that's the ego talking when you.
Nobody wants to be wrong. You never think you're wrong, right? The masses think they're right, and the masses are wrong because they think mechanically. It's outdated, it's irrelevant.
It's hard to think. Everybody thinks mechanically until you learn to sit back and observe from a distance.
Yes, but those are techniques that you have to actually learn to develop your thinking. So observation may not alone do it. You need the strategy to develop the thinking. So what you said, Sylvia, is true, because what we do is we don't want the other person to be right 100%, because we feel that how I need to give credit to myself. So I will oppose you, even though we're talking about the same thing. But I may use different words, I'll start to oppose you. So conflict comes, it's really talking about something similar, slightly different, but in different ways. So if you look at the prophets, they all said the same thing. Just go within. You'll find God there, you'll find heaven there. It didn't matter whether it was Christ, whether it's the Vedas, whether it doesn't matter. Every realized sage, saint had said the same thing. Go within. But people wonder, what is within? What is the address to my within? How do I go inside? Because you've never experienced inside, you've only experienced the external world. And we were taught focuses always to deal with the outside world, never inside. Okay? Unless your parents were realized and they taught you very early how to think or something like that, right? So, but now we've come into the age. This is the start of the age of enlightenment, the age of awareness. And that's why we are out here teaching all of this, that we can change it. We don't have to. We may have been born in a certain way, but we are so lucky as souls that we have incarnated in a time that we have experienced the old world, but now we can create the new world without dying. We can be reborn to this new age, new awareness, new level of intelligence, the new world without dying. We could incarnate that intelligence. And how do we do it? We do it through methodology. We follow the methodology. Now, when you come from your own experience and own wisdom, there's surety. You feel very safe in what you're talking because it's true to your experience, right? And you don't need to convince anyone because you know that what they're going to say may be true to their experience, and that is the magic of the human being. Everybody will get there in a different way. The human experience becomes different. So we start to have respect. We respect the stand of each other, right? Because they are coming originally, you're coming originally too. So who are you going to fight? But otherwise, on opinions, you can fight as much as you want. So rightly said, Sylvia, there will not be conflict. There will not be conflict inside also. Because there will not be fear, little bit of fear, that unnecessary fear. Fear works for you also, but you don't want fear to be a nuisance coming in your way all the time. It shows up in whatever you want to do. That's a bit of a nuisance. So you don't want to get that. When you're coming from yourself, you have the self-confidence. So, and you are in your truth. This is true to you because it's developed like that. Also, it's not an opinion because you spend time on it. You developed aspects of it. You developed it in a wholesome way. So please try this strategy. I'm going to just speak about this and stop here. Is the message clear? Yeah? Or do I need to, any question here?
So I might have gotten a little foggy, but I understand why we need to think differently or think originally. But did you already share the strategy of how to think originally?
The simple strategy that I'm suggesting is that you, whatever solutions you're looking for, whatever question, situation you may have that you want the answer to, start with that. Start to sit down, think about it, maybe write it. Start to think of different ways of looking at it. So something that you couldn't have gotten, maybe another way, opposite way of if the situation is with another person, you start to think of how they're thinking. So yeah, then slowly you start to go in your experience and see if what you are thinking is true to you. Does it correlate with your actual experiences of life?
So the key to thinking for yourself is to think outside yourself.
Think outside of yourself.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're thinking in a box. So this field that we have, small auric field, it has good stuff, but it has a lot of shitty stuff in it. That bogus stuff. We should not be using this. We will unnecessarily confuse ourselves. So we need to clear the auric field by actually using some strategies like that. So when you start to develop yourself, this is self-development. This development comes from you. That is why it is the pathway also to self-realization. Self-realization doesn't happen because you've done mantras and you've done reciting all this other stuff from other people. No matter how realized they are, it doesn't work. Right?
I'm not sure, I have a question, I don't know whether it goes into this thing, but talking about the conflict and stuff, it's because I realize so many more people, as you say, this is a time of enlightenment. However, like in politics or whatever, what we see in different countries and that hatred and that division between people seem to be so strong, like, I don't,
Yes.
and not just
Yeah.
in one country, but in so many.
Yes,
I wonder,
yes.
is that some kind of
Yeah.
the bad trying to bring up the good on the other side?
No, it's
Or why is
actually
this-
become very visible. And so what has happened now is that unless it can come into your awareness, unless you can see something, how do you resolve it? So what we are going through is we are seeing all those hidden facets, the ugliness that was hidden and dormant and being masked. It was being held as secret societies, secret groups, secret, all that hatred, all that division was, but it's now in our world today, and it has risen. We can see it. It's visible. This is the first act of resolution, that you can see it. It's not going to happen right away. If you can see it, you can start to heal it. And many people, when they see it, they say, I don't want to be like that, or I want to be like that. So they're starting, people are voting in mass numbers. This is actually coming because they can see this chaos.
You can't have one without the other. You
Yeah.
can't have enlightenment without going through experiences
Yes.
to get the enlightenment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's good to be able to see this in public,
Yes.
because now we have to find the reason why they're in that situation and look at that and bring that forth. And that's
What you have not experienced, you cannot mature from that. So if you have, it's a perfect example is Buddha. Buddha was born kingly as a king, and he gave away the richness to actually become the monk. And he gave it away because he had it. So if you have nothing to give away, how do you get to that state? If you haven't developed the ego to its fullest power, if you haven't developed even whatever else, the ignorance to your fullest power, how will you ever get to the saturation point? You can't snub it. You can't just hide it. It'll be hiding somewhere in you if you don't consciously look at it and work with it. So all of these are very plus points. You have to look at the ignorance, develop it to the tilt where you can actually see how it could be now converted into something rich. So if you haven't had something, you need to first have that. A lot of people who come, they say, I want to follow self-realization. No, first go make the money. First go do your relationship part. First serve the world. Don't come now, you're not ready. You're just immature. You'll never get there. You won't understand because you've never experienced that. So you need to experience the chaos. You need to experience the faults. You need to experience the fear, even to know that fear will serve you as a purpose. How will you know, right? So everything needs to be developed. And we should be proud of wherever we are in our life to do it. Message is very strong. It's contrary to what a lot of people will tell you. But then I am pretty radical in my thinking, and
It kind of goes against the grain, which the grain of the ego is to defend. But with the spirit,
well, people say they don't have an ego, but how can you not have an ego?
You can't be alive if you don't have.
You
ego.
can't. You better have some ego. You better have some sense of ego.
Yeah.
So when I say I don't have an ego, I am actually, because I've heard somewhere, I've read somewhere that a spiritual person shouldn't have ego. So I'm saying I don't have it. But how can I not?
If you did.
Somebody said to me very early, 1990s or something, she has a great ego. I said, oh, thank you. I thought that was a great compliment. You know, so to me, I see the world differently than other people. So anyways, I think we will stop here. But if you like this, and I want you to practice it at least once, and do come back, so I can share more profound exercises like we did just now, and we will develop it, because I just want you to have very successful lives. And success means your health and your wealth and your balance, right? So I will start the meditation right here. So palms open. Yes, I'll turn off the lights. Do not go to sleep. You won't. Spine is straight. I want the spine very straight today, please. Yeah. We will do a 15-minute meditation now. So I want you to start to focus on listening to the sounds coming from this room or the house. So any sound. Do not try and understand the sound. I simply want you to move if the sound moves. Both ears are going to be focused on listening to the sounds outside. And just lightly drop your eyelids like petals of a rose. Do not get stressed. This is not hard. This is the easiest thing, the most natural thing for you to be in yourself. Listen to the sounds now inside the body. So all focus on inside the body. So whether it's breathing, whether it's pulse or heartbeat, or any other sound coming from inside. Gentle breathing, nostril breathing, preferably no sound, very light breathing, equal breathing, inhale, exhale, equal. Focus on the tongue. All focus on the tongue. The tip of the tongue should be touching the upper palate. Rest your awareness on the spine. So imagine your spine from bottom of the spine all the way to the top. Just imagine this beautiful blue light. The spine is filled with blue light. Now rest your awareness against this blue light. You can feel it in the back. You're resting on it. The spine is straight. Your breath will go from the bottom of the spine all the way to the top, even of the head. Just a few seconds stop and then come down gently. So you don't need to focus on the blue light. It's already, the spine is lit up. Just feel this powerful spine, this vibrant light. And let the breath rise and fall and rise and fall. Shoulders are back, neck is slightly back, all aligned to the shoulders. fill up the entire body with blue light now. Every cell of the body to be filled with blue light, vibrant blue light. Project this blue light, throw it out, just throw it out into the universe, into the cosmos, to the children of the world. Let there be no child without a guide, without light, without food, without shelter, without love, without protection. Let the children be safe and in harmony. Send light to all humanity, no matter who is doing what, how they are. Spread this light, light of awareness, light of awakening. Let it reach every human being and wake up their soul. Their desire to grow, their desire to be whole, their desire to express fullest of their potential. Send this light to the sea world, plant life, animal life, galaxies, planets, into the cosmos. Watch this light coming back into your heart, and place your hands on your heart. Watch it coming back. Receive it with gratitude, with grace, with thankfulness. Many, many folds over, it's returned to you. Rub your hands and 3 times, head to toe, going all the way down, protecting yourself against viruses, against thoughts that are not of your soul. Protects your aura, your vibrations. And then rub your face like that with it, hard. Great. So we are going to stop here, but I'll turn off this system, the FB Live, and I'm going to finish up again with a few exercises. So I'll show you how your body will feel after. So we can circulate this energy, this wisdom, and everything you've taken in today. So let it bring into your auric field in a bigger, vaster, expansive way. And that'll be through our exercises. So again, send me your questions if this topic was relevant. If you want more on it, then just ask me, and we will again probably repeat it because it's something very important for all of us. So share it with family, friends, because no fun in being alone in the jungle, like pretending you're living the world. You might as well enlighten the family and enlighten the world so you can have some fun. Okay, namaste. Thank you for joining me. We'll meet again on Thursday. Okay. Out there, please share this wisdom one thought at a time. Let us enlighten our world and ourselves. Let us wake up the soul of every human. You and I, we can do it together. Thank you.